Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you for joining us today. We have a brand new story to share with you, so let's get started. Two police officers, dressed in blue uniforms, pulled up to my garage in a patrol car. I watched them quietly from beneath the car lift, wiping the grease off my hands as I tried to read their expressions. It seemed strange to see police officers smiling, but as they walked closer, their faces grew serious. After confirming who I was, they gave me disturbing news. Something had happened to my wife, Kate. She was in the hospital, but they couldn't tell me what had occurred. I immediately moved to leave, but they stopped me, asking where I had been during the last 3 hours. I told them I had been working in the garage all day and suggested they ask my mechanics, Mike and Pete. I admitted that I had stepped out for 10 minutes around 11 a.m. to grab coffee for the team. One officer questioned Mike and Pete, while the other wrote down the name of the coffee shop I had visited. Then he asked to see my truck. Without hesitation, I took him outside. He carefully examined the vehicle and finally allowed me to go to the hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, my heart was pounding. A staff member explained that Kate had lost a lot of blood and needed emergency surgery and several transfusions. My concern deepened when I noticed the doctor giving a strange half-smile while sharing the grim details. It felt unprofessional and even inappropriate. As I was leaving, the same two officers approached me again, still looking for answers. We sat down in the hospital cafeteria, sipping coffee as they asked questions about my marriage. I told them that Kate and I had been married for 8 years. She was a successful lawyer who had always wanted children but chose to wait until her career was stable. Just a month ago, she had quit her job, planning to take a short break before trying for a baby, a final bit of freedom before becoming a mother. Then one of them asked something that caught me completely off guard. "What can you tell us about John Barton?" I frowned and replied, "I don't know anyone by that name." They exchanged looks but didn't explain, and then they left. Trusting my team to close the garage, I drove home, only to find forensic experts and a detective going through the house. The detective introduced himself, gave a brief summary of what they knew, and repeated the same questions the officers had asked earlier, with one addition. "There are a few drops of blood in the downstairs bathroom. Do you know how they got there?" I shook my head. "No idea." Then I looked him in the eyes. "Are you treating me as a suspect?" He sighed and gave a vague response. "We're following multiple leads. My colleague is speaking with Mrs. Barton." That name, John Barton, suddenly made sense. "Who is John Barton?" I asked. The detective hesitated, then apologized. "I'm sorry, I can't share that information." As they left, a wave of confusion hit me. I went upstairs to the bedroom, staring at it like I was seeing it for the first time. That morning, around 10 a.m. at work, my mind had wandered, thoughts of closeness and connection. Nothing unusual. They say men think about intimacy an average of 67 times per day. After nearly a month of distance between us, I was surely above that average. Kate's sudden loss of interest had been obvious. Mood swings, fatigue, and general disinterest. I assumed it was part of her adjustment after leaving her job and the anxiety of becoming a mother. I never pressured her. I understood that her whole world was about to change, and fear was natural. But that morning, I decided to reignite what we had lost: spontaneity, passion. I told Mike and Pete I'd be out for a bit and planned to surprise Kate at home. Pete asked if I could test drive a car he had just fixed. I agreed, took a quick spin, and then headed home. But the excitement disappeared the moment I saw an unfamiliar car in my driveway. A visitor. Frustration bubbled up, but I still hoped it was just a friend who wouldn't stay long. As I walked in, I called out for Kate. No answer. Then I heard it, a sound no husband should ever hear. My entire body went cold, my hair stood on end. The unmistakable sounds of pleasure were coming from our bedroom upstairs. My hand instinctively reached for my phone. At the garage, I always recorded videos when customers dropped off their vehicles just in case of damage claims. That same habit kicked in. Heart racing, I climbed the stairs, hit record, and gently pushed the door open just enough to see Kate, with a man I didn't recognize in our bed. A raw, primal rage surged through me. But I didn't act. I turned away. I could have destroyed that man in an instant. Instead, I collapsed against the hallway wall, breathless and shattered. They didn't notice me, too caught up in their moment. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen by betrayal. Eventually, the sounds faded, replaced by quiet conversation. Somehow, that hurt even more. I needed time to think. I needed space. I tiptoed downstairs and dropped onto the sofa, away from the sights, the sounds, and the lingering scent of betrayal. Despite the pain, my mind started working. A plan took shape. Get him out first. Confront him. Kick him out the back door, naked. Then face her. No violence. No evidence. Just swift, clean humiliation. I had the perfect tool for the situation. 2 years ago, while serving in the Army Reserve National Guard, I had been assigned to clearing out military vehicles. That's when I came across a stun grenade, a non-lethal device used in hostage rescues. It produces a blinding flash of 8 million candle power and a deafening noise of 170 decibels. It can temporarily disable anyone nearby. I retrieved it from my workshop, made a quick modification by attaching a rope loop, and returned to the bedroom. This time, I didn't bother staying quiet. The sounds of pleasure floated through the door. Hand gripping the grenade, I stepped inside. I tied the rope loop to the light fixture, letting the device hang halfway to the floor. Then I pulled the pin, slipped it into my pocket, and quickly stepped back. I pressed my fingers tightly over my ears and shut my eyes. Even with my eyes closed, the flash was blinding. The explosion shook the house. Just as planned, I walked back into the room, ready to carry out my revenge. But what I saw stopped me cold. The man was lying flat on his back, not moving. Something was wrong. Something was missing below the waist. Kate was on the floor, her eyes wide and empty, her lips trembling like she was gasping for air. My mind was spinning. What had just happened? This wasn't what I had expected at all. I stumbled into the hallway, trying to make sense of it. Whatever happened in that room, it was far worse than anything I could have imagined. Then, 2 piercing screams erupted from the bedroom, followed by loud banging and slamming doors. It hit me. I was in deep trouble. My plan had gone completely wrong. Peeking back inside, I saw the man fall out of bed, screaming in pain and holding his groin. Kate was gone, probably in the bathroom. I needed to erase any trace of what I'd done. I rushed back in, scanning the room for evidence. I spotted the detonator from the stun grenade and quickly tied it back onto the rope. Everything else seemed destroyed. Taking a deep breath, I approached the bathroom. Kate was on her knees, vomiting into the toilet. I felt nothing, no pity, no concern. I simply didn't care anymore. As I turned to leave, something on the floor caught my eye. I bent down and picked it up, a small, warm, soft piece of flesh. It was the severed tip of a tongue. Without hesitation, I carried it downstairs and flushed it. There was no way they could reattach that now. Trying to stay quiet, I slipped out into the night. Luckily, the distance between our house and the neighbors worked in my favor. Halfway to the garage, I emptied my pockets into a roadside trash can. 10 minutes later, I was back in my small, greasy workshop. Breathing hard, my heart pounding, I called Pete and Mike, my 2 oil-covered employees and loyal friends. They arrived quickly, clearly alarmed by my voice on the phone. Before they could ask questions, I told them I needed a favor. "I need you to say I've been here for the past 45 minutes, I said. They answered without hesitation, "Of course, boss." But I held up my hand. "Wait, don't say yes just yet. Hear me out first." I warned them that what I had done was serious. Once they knew the truth, they might not want to be involved. I wasn't sure what kind of charges I could be facing. Jail time was definitely a possibility. I changed into my old overalls, wiped an oily rag over my face and hands, getting ready for the inevitable arrival of the police. Then I told them everything. Mike was the first to crack. He tried to stay serious for about 15 seconds before bursting into laughter. That set Pete off. Soon, the 3 of us were howling with laughter. It took 5 full minutes before we finally calmed down. With strong handshakes and promises of support, they got back to work. For the next hour, spontaneous laughter echoed through the greasy, cramped garage. Kate was finally facing the consequences she deserved. That evening, I returned home and started cleaning the master bedroom. I scrubbed the bathroom floor, stripped the bed. The bedding had to be thrown away. I made a mental note to buy a new rug. The curtains were torn too. They'd need replacing. I kept myself busy to avoid thinking. But the constant ringing of the phone and the knocking at the door made it impossible to block out. The media frenzy was out of control. A mix of betrayal and a man losing his manhood. It was the perfect scandal. I opened the door once, then turned off my phone for good. Finally, in the quiet, I sat down and allowed myself to think. Did I regret what I did? Strangely, no. I had always despised cheaters. I'd seen people become strangers under the weight of betrayal. But the real shock was Kate. I had believed she was just as devoted to me as I was to her. Our sex life had been great, until recently. After hours of restless thoughts, one clue stood out. 2 months ago, Kate mentioned she was quitting work to enjoy her last days of freedom. That comment had bothered me. I thought she'd work until the 7th month of pregnancy. But something about the idea of her celebrating before motherhood felt wrong. Just then, my personal cell phone rang. Not many people had this number. Caller ID. Kate's parents. They lived 3 hours away. I answered. We had always gotten along well. Her mother didn't waste time on greetings. She got right to the point. Do you know why journalists are crowding outside our house? Her voice was nervous. They say we'll find out soon enough, but... She hesitated. Did you watch the news? Then, her voice cracked. They're talking about a cheating wife who bit off her lover's manhood. I sighed. Yes, Mom, look, there's no easy way to say this, so I'll just come out with it. The woman on the news, it's Kate. A scream burst through the phone, followed by a loud beep. The call had ended. I stared at my phone, suddenly remembering something important. Earlier that morning, I had left it recording outside the bedroom door. The pain was still fresh, but I knew one thing. If I never understood why Kate did what she did, I'd never be able to trust another woman again. There was a real chance I'd die a lonely, bitter man, resentful and cold. Desperate for clarity, I played the recording. I already knew what it would show. The pain of that moment was still vivid, too real to relive. So I closed my eyes and let only the voices reach me. The camera, resting on the floor, had captured only the ceiling. Kate, this past week has been amazing, the man said. Does it really have to end today? My offer still stands. Just say the word, and I'll divorce Sarah and marry you. There was a pause. Then Kate's voice replied. No, it wouldn't work. What kind of beginning is that? A marriage that starts by leaving your wife and kids? I love Dave too much to hurt him like that. Oh, really? You love him that much? The man asked. Because he's not the one lying next to you right now. Another silence. Then Kate said, You're wrong. I love him completely. From the moment I met him, I knew he was my soulmate. I want nothing more than to die in his arms, surrounded by our grandchildren. The man scoffed. Then why are you here with me right now? There was a long pause before she answered. I just miss the past, she said softly. I was a bit wild before I met Dave. I miss walking into a bar and feeling wanted. The thrill of leading a guy on and deciding whether or not he gets what he wants. Lately, Dave's been off deer hunting every other weekend. 3 weekends ago, I went to a bar just for old time's sake. One night turned into 2. Then last Saturday, I ran into you and here we are. I turned off the recording. The problem wasn't me. I had been a good husband and a passionate partner. She was just cold. The following days passed in a haze of disappointment. 2 days later, the reporters left our quiet street. That same day, the hospital administrator called to say Kate needed pajamas. I ignored the request. She could live with the embarrassment of hospital gowns. 2 more days passed. Then her father called. He apologized for Kate's actions and asked if I would stay in touch with the family. Then, trying to sweeten the conversation, he reminded me that he had another daughter, recently divorced. Sorry, Dad. Not happening. For days after the incident, Mr. Not So Big Deal, made it back into the headlines. He had been released from the hospital, but that wasn't the real story. Journalists had done their homework and discovered he was a serial cheater. The cherry on top? Although the surgeons managed to sew his manhood back together, most agreed it probably wouldn't work like it used to, if at all. Poetic justice, really. By the end of the week, I had an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Barton, or Sarah, as she insisted I call her. She was a beautiful woman, with tired, sorrowful eyes. She said she'd heard rumors that I might have evidence to support her in her divorce. I neither confirmed nor denied it. I explained that doing so would expose myself, legally speaking. She understood and apologized for even asking. I reassured her that she already had more than enough circumstantial evidence to win. But if things didn't go as planned, I told her she was welcome to come back, and maybe, just maybe, I'd reconsider. Something about her sadness struck a chord in me. I felt genuinely sorry for her. So, I pulled up a video file and played only the aftermath of the big event. As her husband's agonized screams filled the air, she flinched, then quickly pulled herself together. Let's just say, by the time she left, sadness wasn't the dominant emotion on her face anymore. And because I'm such a helpful guy, I told her she could always stop by if she ever needed to feel a little better again. That wouldn't be the last time I saw Sarah Barton. The strangest visitor, though, came on Saturday. When I opened the door, I found the detective I had spoken to during the investigation. Gone was the formal suit. Now he wore jeans and a shirt. "Hey, son," he said. "No, I won't come in. Just wanted to let you know that, since there's not enough evidence, I recommended closing the case." I thanked him. As he turned to leave, he paused. Looking back over his shoulder, he added, "Listen, I'm retiring at the end of the year. If I come back after that, will you tell me how you pulled it off?" I just smiled and wished him a good day. Then came Kate's letter. It arrived the following Tuesday. "My dear Dave, I can't express how ashamed and sorry I am for what I did to you. I understand completely why you haven't visited me, and I forgive you, unconditionally. I never truly thought through the consequences of my actions. I certainly never imagined that my own parents would disown me. I know I've lost your love, your trust, and your respect forever. That truth hurts more than I can explain. I will understand if you never want to speak to me again. But if it helps you heal, I'd like to explain why I did what I did. Just know it was all my fault. The doctors say I may never speak normally again. Apparently, when I bit down, I swallowed part of my tongue. They're considering some experimental stretching technique to restore function. I hope it works. At the very least, I need some distraction. Anything to take my mind off this dull, loveless, childless future I now face. Take whatever you want in the divorce. I'll sign anything. Just if you could keep me on your health insurance a little longer, I'd be forever grateful. Farewell, my love. I wish you nothing but happiness. I hope I haven't completely ruined your life. Yours, Kate, aka your cheating wife." The letter was so emotional, I actually changed my mind and sent her the pajamas. Now, where the hell are Mick and Pete's numbers? Do I owe them a beer or a whole damn keg? Dear listeners, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.